Welcome to the second annual Fatherhood Unity Month, and I can't be more happier than to be kicking it off with my friend, my brother that's a Virgo. I don't know what y'all know about all of that, but you know the Virgos, we make the most millionaires. And I just wanted to really get some good energy to start. And Andrei Nichols, man, you was on the top of the list for me to kick this thing off. And look how it fell. June 1st is an anniversary for you. We're gonna let the people let you share that story. And really, Fatherhood Unity Month. The reason why I created it is because one, COVID had interrupted everything. And of course, we always about bringing fathers together. We're always about trying to help fathers be better. And we're always about, putting the message out there that kids need both parents because society seems to be conditioned in many other ways in the lack of fatherhood. And so this is our opportunity for the month to share and show the world how dads get down. Right. And so again, our guest for the day is Andrei Nichols. Brother Andrei, welcome.
Hey, my man, I'm glad to be here, literally and figuratively.
Right.
Hey, but it's a blessing just to be in your presence. I've always admired you and your work, and follow you from afar. My father used to tell me, you never know when somebody is, you know, watching you, and I watch you literally, and the things that you're doing um, for the betterment of youth and for our communities, man, is truly admirable. So I'm just excited being here with you than I am you asking me to be here, man. For
Man,
real.
I appreciate that, man. Drake, I have to say this. This vision, it bubbled into my life and it's taken over my life. And I go back to the parent child initiative when me and you first got together, and I was an emotional mess, right? And because I couldn't understand the society that I had came back into from coaching, right? And since I got out of coaching, because coaching has a way of sheltering you when you do it like we did it, because we did it big, right? So, coaching has a way of sheltering you from these things that is taking place in the world. And so I was overwhelmed back then, and now I understand why. I was full of passion, but more importantly, I appreciate that. I appreciate you. And before we even get into your fatherhood story, really just touch on the story. This is your anniversary and how you did what you did. Before we even get into that, share this important story for many of us, because a lot of us don't realize how important it is to take care of ourselves. So share your story, please.
So, as Calvin alluded to, for all the listening folk out there, today, June 1st, 2021, marks my 1 year anniversary of being cancer free. And lo and behold, a little over a year ago, probably, uh, I think it was mid March, is when I started to exhibit some symptoms. And so let me be very clear and forthright with you. Um, my experience was very short lived. I found out last end of May, and by mid June, early June, of course, June 1st, I was cancer free. But prior to that, I had no prior knowledge that something was wrong with me, and that was probably the scary part. And so going back to last March, um, I had now funny part about this, I had cooked some neck bones on I think it was March 17th. I got the recipe from my mother, and I put my foot in them. I put my foot in them. Oh man, I had the onions up in there. I had the green pepper up in there. Them bad boys was seasoned perfectly. And and I smashed them, right? And so this was March 17th. By the 19th, I started experiencing like these stomach pains. And so immediately I chalked it up to the neck bones. I'm thinking like, okay, something wasn't right with the meat. Um, I had cut back on pork, my consumption of pork already. So another part of me was like, all right, well, maybe my body's just telling me that um, pork no longer, has a place here within me. So I dealt with the stomach flu for a couple of days. Then acid reflux, where I was having these internal pains, and things just kind of compounded. And then some of the other symptoms were um, some diarrhea. Uh, there was some vomiting. And then what kind of took it over the top was the constipation, which I'm going to talk about shortly. So this was mid-March, right? So I went pretty much from mid-March to the end of May, treating myself, some holistic practices, and COVID is going on too. So the physicians that I reached out to, my primary care, and then, others, everything was telemedicine. No one was seeing me. And all I was getting was prescriptions. Yo, yeah, let's try this for 10 days. This don't work. Blah,
Right.
blah, blah, split. And things just they got worse. And so my parents live in Muskegon, Michigan, on the west side of the state. And my mom was like, Andre, why don't you come to Muskegon and be seen? Because I'm not really feeling comfortable with the high dose of prescriptions that you're being given. And on top of that, the hospitals here, they're not stressed like they are in Detroit. You can come here, be seen, and get some care and move. Funny, you know, she's saying this to me over the phone like it was a recommend. It wasn't no recommendation. I thought she had a switch in her hand. Like I know what a recommendation sounds like, and that didn't sound like no recommendation. I was like, oh,
Right.
you. I
You know that voice.
mean,
Right.
and so I made my way to Muskegon, and sure enough, I went from urgent care at 9:30 in the morning to being in emergency by 4 o'clock that day. Urgent care were like, yeah, you have an obstruction in your stomach. You need to get to the hospital. I get to ER. ER comes back, and they say we got to the root of it, and we believe that we can treat you. Now, funny too, at this time, everything that I heard was always a prescription, prescription, prescription. So when the doctors of Muskegon came and were like, we got to the bottom of it, I'm like, all right, bet, write your little prescription. I saw your little pharmacy by the door. I can go grab that. I could be
Right.
back in the city by 6.
Right.
It's like, nah, bro. Nah. So end up they did try to treat it with a medicine for 1 day. It did not work, and that's when they said we got to go in there. Come to find out, they did relieve me of the obstruction, but that mass was stage 2 cancer. So I had to relieve. They had to rid me of a third of my colon and my transverse colon that goes over the top, um, and a couple additional days for testing. They just wanted to make certain that there was no spread. Um, and that it wasn't elsewhere. So uh, that happened all in a matter of um, 5 days. I mean, literally 5 days, just like that. And the scary part is that Um, it was stage 2A. It didn't require any chemo or anything like that. But in order for it to matriculate to stage 2A cancer, I literally had been living with cancer for 10 years, 8 to 10 years, and did not know it. And that's probably the scary part of it all. So, um, but move forward, healthy bill of state, cancer free. Made some major adjustments along the way. Um, and here to tell a story.
Yeah, neck bones.
That's what I thought.
Neck bones.
That's what I
Neck
thought.
bones played a part.
Oh man.
Neck bones got you there. And all, because what if you didn't eat the neck bones? You know what I mean? The recognizing the signs. Would those signs have popped up? Who knows? But thank God you was able to get it. So great story. Glad to see you. Right. And so I really want, a lot of people don't know you. I know you. I know your brilliance. I've watched you shoot your shot. Um, I mean, one of the greatest calls we had was when you was positioning yourself for multi-level marketing and that whole presentation, and just watching you do your thing as a businessman, as a person, an entrepreneur. But this is about dads, and I'm very, very interested in your fatherhood story. I'm very interested in that. What is it that makes Andre, right, go in fatherhood?
you know, uh, I'm very fortunate that my father has been a blessing in my life, um, because for me, it starts there. Words can't express um, just his presence in my life. And one of the things I really appreciate about my pops is that there's been nothing that he's brought to my attention that he hasn't modeled. There's been nothing that he speaks of in the form of it being good that I can't see in him, you know. Um, so very, very grateful for that. And then also to grow up in um, in an era where community was was the thing, you know, your coaches, the men in the neighborhood, at church, you know, you were like corrected if need be in a multiplicity of places by men, by men, you know. And so, they say uh it takes a village, but not only is that true, but the village in itself has to be, a place that just embodies that harmony and that togetherness. And I had that. I had that. And I think that all that extends itself to being a leader because I grew up around servants. It's easy for me to be in leadership capacity because I've been served my whole life. And when we talk about fatherhood, um, it's servitude from a man's perspective in so many ways for his own family, but also for those that he's able to influence, uh, and to model that thing. So there's nothing like it, nothing like it. And for some of the young men that I've had opportunity just to embrace and talk to, you know, the message is, be present. Just your presence is just so, it's so important. You know, one young man that I'm mentoring right now, unfortunately, he couldn't be there when his son was born. Um, it was due to work, um, and it hit him. It hit him in the gut. But one of the things I shared was like, you know what? Don't don't look bad on yourself because she, his son's mother, she knows that you're there. Your presence is felt. You know, she knows that you love her and that boy. That's what matters. That's what matters. You know, um, but fatherhood, man, there's nothing like it. There, there's nothing like it.
Right, because you got what, three boys?
Two.
Boys? Yeah, you went AT&T on them boys. So your older son is brilliant, like his dad, graduate, Michigan State, right?
Michigan State's actually this last year, winding down. That light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Business guy, like his dad, and then you got the young fella.
Brian, Brian Andre. I got Andre the second and Brian Andre.
And how?
Brian, Brian is 5.
Oh yeah, a couple more years he could be with me.
Yes, sir. I can have him now.
Probably already there. I seen a video. It's funny. I seen a video of a 2-year-old girl. I don't know if you saw the video. 2-year-old reading everything.
Wow.
They've been teaching her. She reading full sentences, move the whole nine, right? And just an amazing to see a young lady, a child at 2 or 3 years old reading full sentences, know all the continents, everything. I shared it to the fan page. It's very, very impressive. The biggest ingredients that it's mom and dad there, right? So in that process, what does it feel like to be a dad again with such a young man like you? You was out the game.
You know, Brian, Brian receives a more seasoned gentleman. You know, when Andre was born, I was 23. We both kids, and at that time, uh, living life a little frivolous. Take diet for example. I remember times at this point. This was when I was working and teaching at fairs, and I remember sometimes getting off work and grabbing him from daycare. And I asked him, "Was what you want to eat for dinner?" He said McDonald's. I'm like, bet.
Right.
you know, but Brian gets a more seasoned gentleman. His diet is different because my diet is different. Um, Things that I've learned over the years, because that old man, that older gentleman, um, he no longer exists. I'm a new man now. And
Yeah.
Brian gets that guy. And a lot of the mishaps and things that I learned, even in parenting, Brian's going to be able to experience something different, you know. And that's one thing about parenting in itself. Um, it evolves. It evolves with the time. It evolves with uh, the norms of that particular era. Um, and we grow. The same father that I was 10 years from now doesn't exist anymore, you know. But that's a good thing because it constantly helps keep us in tune with our kids and being there for them and being transparent at the same time. I don't always know it all. And there are gonna be times that I might need to apologize too, you know. But as long as they know that I'm present, that's that's what's up.
Oh yeah, yeah. We always talk about how that fatherhood piece is just it's been suffocated enough, right? We out here now. You know what I mean? Like this is who we are. This is what it's about. We ain't gotta go. We ain't gotta go to war, right? To be absent. We ain't gotta have bad diets to be absent. We're here. We're loving on our kids. We're nurturing our kids. We're guiding our kids. And fatherhood is such a huge piece. My next question is Andre the businessman, right? What made you start? What's the story behind ILAC?
So I like interactive learning education consulting. Um, it's been uh, it's been a fun ride. It's been a fun ride. So I have to go back to a message I heard from my pastor, Dr. James L. Mormon, Christian Tab, C-Tab. I don't know any C-Tab folk out there, but love y'all. But Dad, that's how we refer to him. He gave a message. I think I heard this two, in 2011, it might have been. But he was just talking about um, our gifts, our talents. And he said something so profound. He said, when the Lord places something within you, um, that thing is meant to be released. You know, a lot of times people have a tendency to say, I'm chasing my dreams. That's not true. When something is birthed within you, it's meant to be let go of. There's even a quote by Ross Perot when he was deciding to start EDS. He was in a barbershop in 1962, and he said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, meaning that there's something within them that they hold on to. And so I got to a point and I said, you know what? This thing has been burning, and I'm gonna release it. And sure enough, our company had already been um, established, but that was the first time I looked it in the face and I said, you know what? I want to do this thing full time. That was the first moment that I said, I think I want this to be what I do. And so put together a plan that honestly has just now come to fruition within the last 2 years. See, what I've done over the years is I've leveraged my experience as a school administrator and brought all that over into my educational consulting firm. So by um, being a principal, by being a superintendent, and having a body of work that speaks exemplary in there, because I have two successful school turnarounds under my belt, in both of those lanes, as superintendent and principal, taking all of that knowledge and moving it over into my own endeavors. Because I not only wanted an esteemed and established firm, but I wanted one that could be built on credibility. When I'm talking to prospective clients, I can look them in the face. I've been where you at, and left where you going. And with that, and able to make those connections, um, there's an understanding that I can be looked at as he knows what he's doing. And I hire just like that too. All of our consultants have turnaround experience. We don't really look for anything less than that. They have turnaround experience because that is the work that we take on. Diagnostic work, comparing the current conditions of a district to the optimal conditions of learning, um, operations, finance, academics. We can assess how things are going and give you the blueprint for how things could be better. Um, and so, but over the years, taking that personal professional experience and bringing it over into my firm, because I knew that, particularly being in education, most educators won't even look at you if you don't have something that speaks to success. It just, and then to a certain degree, it makes sense too. You know, how can you talk to me about school turnaround and you don't have anything to show that you've done it? You know, um, graduated 98% of my kids and saw 75% of them go on to college. I can speak to that, you know, and I know about the programming and the initiatives that helped create that college readiness academy at the same moment, you know. So I wanted to be a consultant that wasn't just about the rhetoric, that can actually say they've done what they're talking about, you know, and then move schools and move districts, especially in our community, because we know who's being served. And I made a business enterprise out of it, you know, um, and been successful, you know, keeping these lights and water on and a quarter tank of gas.
Well, a quarter tank of gas, we kind of think we kind of live around there quite a bit before we're like, man, I got to go to the gas station. But no, I like it's been very visible, right? Because of our relationship, I've watched. We've had meetings, right? And a lot of I think I want to share this story, right? How you and I, right? Because there are several people I've gone to the library with, right? And you and I went into the library and we built this incredible program for fathers to help fathers. And we didn't get the grant, but just the creativity that went into that room, how we can get into a room. There's a couple people I've gone to the library to work on some things. One was Crystal Gunn, another one was Heather, and you, right, where we put together some things. And in doing that, I see myself doing that more with you because we're always exchanging good information. Whereas, it's like, um, how do you like we put our program in Southfield. So how is our program so successful, in Southfield, right? And it is, right? But a lot of it came from us looking at certain things again from the logic model, how we presented it ourselves. The Smash Suicide campaign where we got on and I got that Trello, right? And learned about Trello, right? And use Trello, right? But back to fatherhood, what is the one lesson you think um, you got from uh, your dad first?
um, I think from my father, um, it's it's what love looks like in its fullness. That um, love is about being a provider. Love is about forgiving. Love um, it's about knowing how to care, how to listen. Um, but everything falls back to just love, you know. And the beauty of that is it prepares you for how to live a full life. You know, my dad raised me to to be a caretaker of myself, of my family, of my community, um, and my responsibilities. You know, uh, and love is is at the center of it all. You know, and that's pretty remarkable. Um, and so, if there was one thing, that's what I got to fall on. My my dad my dad showed me and talked to me on what love is and what it looks like up close and personal.
Right. Well, you haven't always been good. How many
No.
butt whoopings?
Whoa.
Whoa, right, right. So I had,
Yeah.
man, when I talk about this, right, because this is part of our fatherhood story too, and I talk about this, um, and I shared this. I I have no problem saying I knew for a fact when I got hit with an extension cord, that was a life changing experience. And I vowed not to do that with my kid. And I didn't, right? And in that process, I kind of developed the whole method, the strike three method, right? Along the way. And I give this suggestion to anybody talk, talk sternly. Then your strike three, apply the discipline, right? Because kids need to know based on their life. Kids need to know they need to be taught and all of that because I didn't have to go there. But man, how many whoopings did you get?
I can't count, man. I can't count. Hey, and I know we're talking fatherhood, but my mom got a couple up in there too.
Right, right.
But I say this much: everything is again centered on love, and sometimes things do need to be punitive. Correction sometimes does need to come in the form of something being punitive.
It saves lives.
It's
I,
this it's discipline. It teaches discipline,
it
and
saves.
it's order.
Yeah.
And um, it's funny. I was just in conversation with someone in regard to working, and what coincides what we're speaking of now. But they were an individual who just kind of dismiss a job, and I was very quick to let them know that one of the things that a job does is teaches us how to submit to authority, processes, and systems, and um, but being able to submit yourself to authority. And when people lack discipline, they don't understand how to give respect to authority. You look how many kids now will very quickly and easily disregard the directives of an adult, will curse at adult, don't give the reverence to seniors as they should. All of this can actually rest upon a lack of discipline in their life. Because if that was there, you would have learned how to submit to an authoritative figure and pay respect and reverence to someone, you know? And that's a vicious thing that we're contending with right
No,
now.
let's stay there for a second. So, it not only is it vicious, it's it's a bigger absence, bigger void when you don't get from your seniors the information. When you don't get from your parents, this is why kids need both parents because when you don't get from the grandparents the lessons and the blessings and the information that grandparents tend to put into the parent and the parent tend to put into the child, right? When you don't get that, there's a big disconnect. And so you have this huge array of disrespect. I remember when we started Respect Day, when because Respect Day came from us in our mentoring program, and the boys, our mentees, were supposed to go back to their schools and create this Respect Day, but no one responded. So I decided, okay, well, if nobody responded, then I'm gonna show you guys what to do when someone doesn't respond, right? And so we put together Respect Day, and I remember going in the DSA. DSA was the first school, and we had all the kids in the classroom, and we were talking to the kids, what you want to see about Respect Day, this, that, and the other, right? And so the kids, right, was like, man, they had a different perspective on respect. So I said, okay, everybody take out your phone and read the true definition of respect. Once they read the real definition of respect, it like opened their eyes to a whole nother world. It was like the entire environment shifted. And once we actually did Respect Day, when we come out of Respect Day, I'll never forget Miss Green calling me and telling me, I wish you can see the school right now, how the young men are opening the door, pulling out the chairs for the young ladies. The young ladies are talking to the young men at a nice tone. Things seemed calm, and it carried over right till the year was done. And so respect is huge in this piece, but when you snatch out them bodies, when you don't have that environment, right? That's kind of what you're left with. Would you agree?
Yes. And uh, so we conduct family meetings once a month. Um, and there's there's an agenda. We open up a prayer. We have a quick one word check in. We discuss our spiritual life, um, family business. Um, we talk fun, um, but we talk about these things. And one of the reasons why it's so important, as I shared with Andre, is that inheritance isn't always tangible. As a matter of fact, for the most part, it's going to be knowledge and insight, wisdom being shared and passed down. And so it's important when you talk about that gap that the men that are in their children's lives are doing something to make certain that that information transfers down, formal or informal. In this case, right here, it is part of in a formal way. Um, but within our family meetings, you know, when we talk business, for example, my son knows that if something were to happen with me tonight, that when it comes to ILAC, he has options. He owns 51% of the company. He could sell that. He could step in my place, or he could just arrange it to collect a check. He knows where the business documents are. Um, he knows what his rightful place is. The same goes for business accounts and things of that. How to handle money, um, who my broker is, lawyer, who the team is. I pull him into meetings. As a matter of fact, I just had a focus group not too long ago with some renowned educators throughout the country, and I pulled my son in. I wanted him to know how I go about making some decisions. I'll create a focus group. Um, and just gather insight. But I wanted him to know about that process in itself. But these are all little things that we have to do to make certain that information and way of being cascades its way down from generation to generation. Because when it's all said and done in this country, for the most part, we're just 3 generations removed from being literate.
Yep.
Prior to that, everything was um, translated in the form of storytelling and even in slavery songs. But we're really just 3 generations, if that, for some families, of being literate. That's pretty compelling. That's pretty mind-boggling. You think about it, you know. Um, and so now that we have access to all this wonderful technology and information, we have to understand not only how it applies to our lives here and now, but how it has to impact those who are coming behind us. And how does that information transfer down? And it starts with our own families.
It does. And getting out of your way. I was so proud of me. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and right, and we have family meetings. We actually have one tonight, right? It's about my dad, right? And but when you were talking about it, I was taking Cam to meetings at 4. Right now, Cam's 17. He got CEOs, boss in his phone. They introduced him to a West Bloomfield store. He know how much it costs to own one of those stores. He wants to. on one, right? He puts in the work. They can't understand it. You know what I mean? But they don't know that he comes from business. He has a sense in this environment because that's what he was growing up in ever since he was 4. So he learned to read it for. So just like you were talking about, how do we continue to pass the information on? Same for Two Man. Two Man has a business acumen that he he has to navigate, right? But that being the case, and us passing on really a legacy of information. Like you said, we only three right generations literate, right? That is compelling, right? And when we talk about reading is life, and we talk about, so here's a couple of things, and then I want three things from you, as we're winding down. But here's the thing that really um inspires me and pushes me about fatherhood, right? And I share this in every room I go into. Fatherhood is life saving. When a man is in his child's life from 0 to 9, the child lives longer. To me, you can't get any bigger than that. And we have suffocated the value, right? And like I said at the beginning of this, we out now. We know our value, right? And that's 3 generations removed as well, because the concept of fatherhood, right? Really, the fatherhood, Father's Day didn't even become a holiday till 71, 1971. Richard Nixon made Father's Day a holiday, right? So at this point, give me, you're pretty good at this. Give me 3 things, right? Um, that families can do to be better.
Um, so this is not going to be any particular order, but here's one that's very important to me. Um, is eat healthy. And maybe I'm saying this because it's personal, but to eat healthy and to learn about the nutritional value of foods and what it is that we voluntarily digest. One of the things that I've recently done, I had a nutritionist come over to my house, and she cleaned me out, like literally replaced virtually anything that had sodium. She started with my spices, but she cleaned it out. And she did that in my pantries, and she did that in the kitchen, and the fridge, or the freeze, and everything. Then she said something so important. She said, now that what you see is different, it will force you to cook differently. It will force you to cook differently. And I've had to do that. I've had to go out of my way to, like, okay, I got this avocado oil. I got all these organic rubs. I mean, all right, let me see what I can do with these things. But that is a high one right there. So we have to learn how um to be healthier, and beginning with our diet, um, and then also allowing that to extend itself um, with some form of exercise. This is something that families can easily do together and make it a focal point, to make it a fabric of their household. Um, Another thing that kind of stands out is ensuring that we listen to each other, because a lot of times what we do is we're preparing our message, we're preparing what it is that we want to say, and we're not actively listening, and learning how to listen. An exercise that helps with that is to have a tough conversation on the topic, and it's not a dialogue, it's just a listening session. You have to listen completely and wholeheartedly to not only the words that that person is saying, but the emotion behind those words. And a lot of times when we're not listening, that's when you see dissension take place, or people at odds because they're thinking one way that's not aligned to how that thing really is. And if we just learn how to listen to each other, um, families can easily see that we can overcome whatever obstacles because we're in this together, but we're talking and we're listening and we're exchanging information instead of one party talking and the other person just looking to talk right back, you know. So listening is one. And then if I had to just give one more, and there's several others, you know, that we could easily be talking about, um, but make sure that whatever you bring into your kids' attention can be modeled. There's an example there. And I'm going to say something, and I would love to hear from anyone that wants to talk further on it or disagree. But in scriptures, whenever judgment is being talked about, it's really in the form of hypocrisy. We need to be able to judge because that's how we discern something. That's how we're able to make a conclusion if something is right, if something is wrong, if it needs to be corrected. So we need to be able to judge because it's exercising our wisdom. At the same moment, the message has to be very clear. Don't judge unless that person can see that correctness in you. Otherwise, you're being hypocritical and the message won't resonate because people are very, very impressionable. They're not just listening to you, they're also looking at you. So you have to make certain that whatever you're bringing to your kids' attention, whatever you're bringing to anyone's attention, that they can see that thing in you too. That way, it registers a little bit more better than them just getting your rhetoric. And a lot of times, you know, we talk about our kids from the point of them missing a mark and them not behaving accordingly or giving maximum effort and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At the same time, unfortunately, many of them don't see readily what it is that we're bringing to their attention. You know, we're very quick to correct them on some things, but at the same time, can they see that thing in you? You know, and so it's very important that um, because if they don't get it from us, they're gonna get it from someplace, and you can't afford for that other place to be misguided. You know, I would rather much have my son bring things to my attention, knowing that my response is going to be guided, rather than him get something off the street. You know, and but that's earned. I earned that credibility with my kid. I've earned that with my son. And I took that right because I make sure that I can model that thing before I could just bring it to his attention. Otherwise, I would be a hypocrite in his eyes, you know. Um, and so there's a host of other things, but you know, those are ones on my heart right there.
No, no, I like that one. That third one is crucial as well as the first. All three of them are crucial. I really like that. The modeling piece is huge, right? It's what we talk about even in mentoring, right? You got to make sure that the example that you are presenting in front of them, that it's healthy and they can duplicate it, right? Um, healthy fatherhood versus, what else? You know what I mean? So healthy fatherhood is the new challenge, right? It's the new answer. I had a conversation today, a great conversation, with an organization has over 125,000 fathers, right? And the we were having the conversation, and I was saying how tough it is that societal wise, right, as fathers, the forefathers, as they call them, and the fathers preach, look at what damage we caused, and look at how we had to reap, right, as the collection of fatherhood, right. And so even the conversations, the writers of comedy and the old shows, how they made fun of dads, and they continued and continued and continued and continued till dads was the butt of every joke, and no one really saw your value. And then because of other things, we tossed that out. So yes, eating healthy. We both agreed. Uh, we, we both agreed about uh, what do we call that? Intermittent is what we're doing. I've been doing it. My brother, he crack a lot of jokes about, yeah, yeah, there go Mr. After Seven. You know, he crack a lot of jokes. You know, that's how our love language is jokes, right? We make sure that we get them in at all times, right? We don't we love each other. We make sure the jokes are there, and you know that's what we do. So at this point, if you don't mind, tell people where they can follow you, support you, and appreciate you because you know of there are a lot of people I always uh, sit back and admire. You're one of them. So not only are you watching me, I'm watching you and admiring you often, and I've learned so much from you. And it, you know, I like to laugh about these things, Andre, because I, you know, if you on the outside looking at me, you would think I wasn't learning. You know what I mean? But when you get on the inside and you get to see the success that we're having, you see that that's not true. And being a multitasker, you know what I mean? Being a multitasker, as we both are, um, the one thing I learned about where I'm going is you need 5 to 7 streams of income, right? And you and I both know we're on top of that. And so our destiny is being driven by God by way of fatherhood. So I appreciate the time and just go ahead and share where people can follow you and support you.
So on LinkedIn, it's just my name at Andrei Nichols. Very simple. Um, and the same with Twitter. You know, those are the places right there that if a person just kind of want to see what I'm up to and what I'm expressing, where you could find me. So I'm on Facebook as well. My everything is simple. It's just my name, Andre Nichols. I mean, you know, and because very shortly I'm going to be having a firm handle my social media accounts. So I'm just keeping everything real simple, you know. So um, but man, I appreciate this time with you. This, you know, it's always welcome when we talk.
Yeah,
Always.
always.
And we
Yeah,
got to get back in the library too.
yeah, we got to. We got
So
to. It's something brewing. It's something brewing. And you know, it's funny. Um, I we hired a social media person. So that's where you see
yeah,
all the ads for the capital campaign and the, yeah, we hired someone, right?
yeah,
Because we know we had to get to that level. We did a little bit of hiring here, and our intentions is once we move into the other cities to do some more hiring. So I, you know, again, I appreciate you, man. I love you, and I thank you for your time. I know you got some things you got to do, and you know, I'm just gonna add a little to close out here. The most important piece, and thank you for coming. The most important piece about fatherhood to me and tonight, if you were really paying attention and listening to the things that Andre was sharing, right? You can see the calmness, the peace. These are the things that comes with our children when they have both parents, when the father is involved healthy, right? There was not, you didn't see a lot of the emotion and things like that, right? What you saw was strength and discipline and guidance. You heard a story about a father that is applying fatherhood to his children, so his children's children, which is our job as fathers. And so, you know, I ask the society over and over again to allow us to come together as fathers so we can share because nobody's story is the same. And I tell all the fathers, Andre, in every room I'm in, I tell all the fathers, the most important thing is to write your fatherhood story. Write your book, right? Leave it because somebody is going to pick up that book one day and learn how to be Andre Nichols as a father or Calvin Mann as a father. I'm coming with parenting from brokenness and I'm eventually getting ready to tell my story as well. So I just want to throw that out there. It's important. Tomorrow night, we'll have JP. JP's got a great story, and we're looking forward to that. And he's going to be sharing his journey. JP is a dad influencer, and he is a serious speaker. And I'm looking forward to his whole conversation tomorrow. So we thank you, Andre, for coming on. We thank you for listening in. This was the first day of Fatherhood Unity Month. We got all month, and so I hope you enjoy these great stories about these great fathers. Thank you.